Hey there, big dogs. Sexy Thor is back after a seemingly long absence, though it's just 24 hours longer. And boy, do I have a lot to talk about here. Honestly, this might be strictly about WWE stuff because the stuff I've read this week concerning Captain Marvel and the toxic dumpings that's been thrown at it is just going to piss me off, and this is not the place for that. It's for me and Lightning Lad to drink on and to squad up with Beth and Kavika, and we all just collectively fire back at these betas on. Oh, hey guys, if you're listening to this is my discussion idea for our next episode. Surprise! Back to Mjolnir Monday and back to your weekly thunder. So as I told you on SIF Sunday last week, I was going to Atlanta and I had high hopes for that trip and what would transpire, which normally would be recipe for any sort of letdown, but nope. It was even better than what I hoped for because, as was announced, Roman Reigns stepped foot in that ring for the first time in 18 weeks to give an update on the second round of his fight with leukemia, and he said, and I quote, "We not only swung for the fences, we hit a home run. I'm in remission, y'all," of which the crowd, definitely including myself, roared something fierce. It was a magical moment that I'll absolutely never forget. It was even more awesome seeing Seth Rollins come out to give him a hug. I still remember clear as day, right after Roman made his announcement that he had to step away to fight leukemia, Seth came out with Dean with tears in his eyes, devastated, so to see him come out this time with joy and excitement was a beautiful thing to see. Dean Ambrose didn't come out, but that was more for story's sake. The real person, Jonathan Good, was just as overjoyed and emotional as Seth behind the scenes, though. And Dean did come out to interrupt Elias, and when Elias brought up Super Bowl 51 and the Falcons like everybody else, Dean gave him a dirty deeds, thus in Sexy Thor's eyes, all is most definitely forgiven, Dean. Later, Dean fought Drew McIntyre in a no disqualification match, which ended with him getting ganged up on by Drew, Bobby Lashley, Baron Corbin, and Elias. Stop me if you've heard this one before, namely last fall before TLC. But this time was different. This time was perfect. Because Seth came out with a steel chair and commentator Corey Graves automatically assumed he was there to join the legion of assholes in the beatdown of Dean, but Roman coming out after Seth proved he couldn't be more wrong. They came down, showed these dudes that their bullying doesn't fly anymore because the big dog is back, and this is our yard! Right now, Roman and Seth are scheduled to take on Corbin, McIntyre, and Lashley in a handicap 2 versus 3 match at Fastlane, but you never know. The Shield can always come back and reform whenever the WWE universe needs them most. Team Rowdy Heart, aka Ronda Rousey and Natalya, took on the Riot Squad because spats with the Four Horsewomen and Divas legends may come and go, but the Riot Squad are forever. But this one had an amazing wrinkle, as the man, the suspended man, Becky Lynch, came out on crutches and punched Natalya and started pounding on anyone she could before Atlanta PD took her away. I saw a prisoner transport van earlier in the day when I was walking around downtown Atlanta. I wonder if any of those were used for her. Kidding. Ronda called out Vince McMahon to reverse his ruling and put Becky back in the WrestleMania match, but Stephanie put her foot down and said no, so Ronda laid the Raw Women's Championship belt at her feet and walked away. Charlotte Flair will be on Raw tonight, and I think she's expecting they'll just give it to her, probably. Bayley faced Nia Jax in a singles match preview for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship at Fastlane with Bayley and Sasha Banks versus Nia and Tamina. Like I said last episode, cool, but duh, we all figured this was going to happen. Finn Balor was that night's guest for a moment of bliss, and just like with EC3, Alexa was all flirty and then getting interrupted, this time by Lio Rush, who got his words all twisted around and ended up in a match against Finn for the Intercontinental Championship, which I don't think is a great way to get back into Bobby Lashley's good graces, but there you have it. Speaking of not being in good graces, the chairman character of Vince McMahon got himself in the bad graces of the New Day and the WWE Universe by up and replacing everyone's favorite or new favorite contender for the WWE Championship, Kofi Kingston, with Kevin Owens. Back for the first time since getting injured on Raw several months ago and having to get double knee surgery. Now this one is interesting to me because a couple of rows back, the previous night at the Raw I was at, there was a guy Nick swore up and down was Kevin Owens, and at first glance I agreed, but at second glance I wasn't so sure. I'm also super nearsighted, so I mean, there you go. With him showing up to SmackDown the next night, which took place in Charlotte, I'm now almost certain it was KO that we saw in Atlanta. Holy crap. In other championship news, Mandy Rose is set to face Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship at Fastlane. Asuka will probably retain, but it would be interesting as Mandy and her best friend Sonya Deville have really re-emerged for the first time in a long time after being pretty much buried after Absolution went under with Paige's retirement after Mania last year. Ricochet and Aleister Black are officially a tag team after fighting on the main roster, but they're not quite official call-ups, but still seeing more TV action than Lacey Evans. It's a thing. But they'll also be in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Tournament, with the winner set to take on the War Raiders for the NXT Tag Team Championship at TakeOver New York the day before WrestleMania. Speaking of Lacey Evans, I actually got to see her in action the night before the Raw Atlanta as the SmackDown Live event happened here in Greenville. Lacey tagged with Nikki Cross, the real Scottish psychopath, against the Iconics and won, and it was a very interesting partnership. I hope it translates to TV canon. Also, we got to get a sneak preview of something that really did happen Tuesday night on TV, when United States Champion R-Truth, who I got to meet before the show, took on Andrade and Rey Mysterio in an open challenge in honor of R-Truth's hero, John Cena. Yeah, that's probably going to be a thing. Also, the main event was Charlotte taking on Asuka for the SmackDown Women's belt for the 1000th time, even though she's in a story where she's going after the Raw belt at Mania, so SmackDown is getting really gassed for fresh new stories for the females. Maybe post-Mania and Superstar Shakeup bring back Alexa Bliss. It could be fresh for both the blue brand and for her, because if you keep her as is and you have Becky on the red brand after Mania, if she wins, on top of still having Ronda and Natalya and Sasha and Bayley and all that, then Alexa's going to get buried. And obviously the WWE doesn't want that to happen, as they give her all these TV opportunities even during her injury and recovery, even though they're lame bits like, if you show me your abs, I'll show you my... That, or give her a great feud with Ember Moon, more than just that weird Mean Girls storyline from last year. Ember and Alexa are best friends in real life. They deserve a better story than that. And Alexa's the goddess, not Rachel McAdams. Oh, and at the end of the show was Ric Flair's 70th birthday. Except he never got a chance to show up. And while everybody was in the ring, the Raw roster was hanging out in front of the entrance waiting for him. Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Shawn Michaels, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Sting. Like, they were, and Kurt Angle as well. They were all waiting for Ric Flair to come on out, and all they got was a camera traveling along and Batista going into Ric Flair's dressing room, beating the crap out of him, and then coming out and being like, "Do I have your attention now, Hunter?" Which everyone lost their minds at. I half lost my mind at it, and half was just like, wait a second, didn't I see him turn to dust? Like, did Drax come back to life before Endgame? I don't know. It's all weird. Anyway, so Batista's going to be around a lot, which is fine because he doesn't really want to be with Marvel Studios anymore since they nixed his BFF James Gunn. So we might be getting a whole lot more Batista in the future, which would be great if the original plan for Mania, which was Batista versus Triple H, actually got off the ground, because during Triple H's last match against The Undertaker at Super Showdown in October, Triple H ripped his pectorals, I believe. So at the time it looked like that match was in jeopardy and not going to happen at all, but it looks like it could happen after all. Yeah. But the animal is also Drax the Destroyer, so, I mean, sorry Hunter, I love you, but Final note, Tony Nese and Drew Gulak advanced in the tournament to decide who the Cruiserweight #1 contender is for WrestleMania. Also in the main event warm-up show for the live audiences before Raw last week. No Way Jose took on whoever the non-injured member of Authors of Pain is and lost to them. And then hometown hero Apollo Crews took on everybody's favorite NXT call-up EC3, and he won because he's from Stone Mountain, Georgia. You know it's also in Stone Mountain, Georgia? Netherworld, and Netherworld is the shit. And that's your Weekly Thunder for March 4th. I'm Sexy Thor, and be like Wheatley, who got his own Mjolnir, for completing the Viking 5K, and drink, run, and make your ancestors proud. I don't think he did it in that order, though. Or maybe he did. I don't know. But after the day I had that Saturday, I'm still worthy.